All right, let's see if this works. So hi Mike, I hope this is working. What I want to try to do today is see if I can use the real estate of my giant screen to do a split screen so I can still watch the commentary. I'll then be able to do like that little segment that I wanted to try to do the week that was. Then go to one of the websites that I want to show you guys, which it's really, really good. Oh, thanks, Mike. And no chipmunks, thank goodness, I hope. Then we'll watch the Calandale stuff in the tutorial and then go back to that. And the trick for me is, and hopefully, Mike, you're going to maybe help me, is I think I'll need to mute my mic. Well, actually, we're not going to see me at all when we go to the Calandale stuff. We're going to go back to that full screen and me just doing commentary. So I think I just have to remove my camera and whatnot. Oh, fantastic. Okay, so the first thing, I did bring out the maps. So I'll bring the camera over here. It's a bit wonky. I'm using that not very good camera, but it seems to, the StreamYard thing seems to recognize the camera versus my camcorder. I think it's potentially got something to do with, because I'm using a USB extender, then I'm using a USB to micro HDMI adapter. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, I think, little loose connections. And as you know, since it's a digital connection, it's, one or the other, excuse me, kind of thing. So yeah, let's go with the week that was. So first thing we'll do is which will be interesting to see if it works, is we'll jump to the 1914 thing. So I'm going to put that one there, and then I do this one. So hopefully you guys can see see everything. And if you see something that you find interesting, let me know. This is just for me. I wanted to do, like the year before and after kind of thing. So to give us a bit of context of, especially I think for what was happening before the war started. I think a lot of us know, or at least I do, I shouldn't say as much as I thought I did, but I obviously know about, like, okay, there was the Russian Civil War, there was a lot of chaos and so on and so forth, and a lot of, new nations popping up. But what the heck was going on the year before kind of thing? Like, it doesn't seem to, from what I've been reading, or, stuff that, there was not a lot of, what do they call them, clouds off in the distance kind of thing. So here we go. We'll just take a quick look and then we'll kind of get the idea. I think the week previous was something to do with Pancho Villa and some kind of, there was something going on with, I don't know, he was making some amazing successes up near northern Mexico. And I think there's actually even, I think I was reading something about they actually made a film with him in it during this bit. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just crazy. Like, talk about like a spaghetti Western gone mental or something. But so here there's a few things that the next thing I found really interesting was January 17th. It almost seems like this bad omen for that Austro-Hungarian warship we're about to see. And if you see anything, please let me know. So I can see here with the Gandhi, but there's just all this stuff I just don't really know about, but it's kind of neat to find out about, like the Royal Navy submarine here. Sank near Cornwall. Jeez. But here's the thing that I found interesting. The SMS, I don't know how to say it, Istvan battleship of the Austro-Hungarian Navy. That was neat. But it just, like they said here, it was plagued with problems from the start. And one person got killed. The other one had his arm crushed. Holy jeepers. Yeah, so we go up to the 21st, and then I'll take a look. We can take a look at the Der Weltkrieg maps and take a look at the notes that I did. What I find interesting is I was also watching the Great War shows, as you know, the guy does it, week by week. And it just dawned on me. I was like, oh yeah, I remember watching one of the behind the scenes footage things. Well, that's where I found out about the chronology of the Great War book. And he was using that as one of his primary sources. And here I am using it for the week that was. Then I go and watch his shows. I'm like, wait a minute, this sounds an awful lot like the notes I took. But of course, he's like a bazillion times more eloquent and so on and so forth. But practice. So here we go. International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea. The SOLAS Convention. I've heard of that. Oh my gosh, look there. It was in response to the sinking of the Titanic. And then the 21st. Okay, so I'll bring it on over to the map, and please let me know if you notice that I'll get rid of the stops sharing, and then I guess it'll be the full on screen, and we'll go over to here. And if I've got it too bright or whatever, let me know. One thing I did notice, I wanted to find out about, was there any scenarios in the Der Weltkrieg series that specifically had, not including the duration, obviously, but it specifically had January in any of their, in their timelines. And actually, if you want to play January in any part of the war, your best bet is the Ottoman front module. No other module that I could see had a scenario specifically that included January, any of the years in their scenario. But there was multiples for the Ottomans. And I think one of them was the relief of Kut. There was some relief force that was sent up, and they met up with a tough, I think, Turkish force, and they never made it to Kut and had to go back to their headquarters. And if I do believe, I'll find out later, but I'm pretty darn sure that Justagard did, coincidentally, who just had his game on the P500. Jesus, nice. I think that's the actual scenario he did from the Ottoman front one, just I think in the previous year. So I'll try to. It's a good one. So, anyways, let's go to the map, and oh yeah, I'll turn off the thing. Hold on, and then I'll go back. I can get rid of January 1914. Let's stop sharing that one. So we're up to the full screen. I can see what I'm seeing. I'll rotate the screen a little bit. Hold on. I mean my television thing, just in case somebody says anything. I can see what you're saying. Okay. And then I'll bring the camera over. And I think I have to get rid of the virtual background. Yeah, I think so. Hold on. Settings. Virtual background. None. All right, there we go. Go back. 0. All right, sorry guys. I'm still getting used to this bloody thing. And I obviously hit a button and it just vanished on me. So if you're still there, that's good. Hopefully you're there, I hope now. Please. Anyways, I'll go to the thing and we'll just quickly take a look. It's probably a lot of glare, sadly. Hold on. Yeah, I think I may have to get rid of the glare bit. Hold on. I think I have a light. All right. Can you see, I hope? Where's the light switch? Can you see now? Sorry. Okay, sorry. It's, yeah, I'm just still getting used to the whole thing. I don't know, even if this is going to work. Maybe we'll just go over the bits here. Or maybe I should just go straight to the whatever. I don't think this is going to work out. Maybe I will just go to the straight I'll talk a bit about it later. Yeah, let's see. I'll figure this out. Okay, we're gonna hold on here. I'll put you back to reality. And while we're watching the show, I'll put my camera back and try to get things going. All right, hold on here. So I'm gonna go to share the screen and get rid of my unmute my stuff. All right, hold on here, guys.
I haven't been playing much, but also I've basically flown through most of November. And yes, it's taken me a couple of days, but I mean, it's taken about an hour of play time at most to get there because nothing's really happening. I've been playing a video game, first-person shooter type thing. And that kind of hooked me in, and it's been hard to move to pull away from that addiction and then play this. And then when I do play an action in this, it is more painful because the little mechanisms that I've come up with in my mind for remembering where everything is so that I can do the recuperation of units is here. There was something I wanted to say, which is why I turned on this video, but then I got caught up in that stupid line of thought. And I don't really know what. The armies are largely... I had a really cool thought in head, and I think I thought so enough that it warranted videoing a little bit. Anyway, the armies are mostly up to strength, just kind of pushing more and more stuff on the line. But the supply situation isn't enough to warrant an extended... month-long or worse assault to happen. So kind of this lull in the game. And, I mean, the game handles so much with the swapping in and out of specific units, etc., but it doesn't bother with, say, the attritional aspect of the fighting, the low-scale fighting that was going along the line. Yes, that's not interesting, but why is swapping the units in and out so terribly interesting? I don't know. At least swapping the units in and out can create these kind of situations where, you've got a weak unit on the line, and either you can repair that, or your enemy notices, hey, that stack looks a little weak. One of the things is, one of the little problems, I'm looking, for a unit I can repair. After an offensive, it's very easy. There's piles and piles of units, and I know the center... where I've got to throw my reserves and I pull units back and I can stock them back up. But at this point, it's kind of like, it's just such a pain to find the units that are damaged. And then worst of all, you got down here, there's like a little yellow thing which indicates that the unit's damaged. Well, underneath that, it's a 9-5 German Imperial Guard, which can't go up above an 8. So, but there's also just there's damage in a lot of little places. Now, this isn't a great concern. I can still rebuild units out of the stock, and that's probably the wiser thing to do just because it's less painful. But there does potentially come to be a point where you run out of replacements, at least with the Germans. The French are actually in better shape, I think, at this point. Anyway, at that point, I think it's time for an offensive rather than working to get everything up to perfect strength. Although it sucks not to be able to do that. Something in my mind says I should be able to optimize this. Anyway, we'll continue on slowly through. I don't know how long it's going to take me. Well, another infuriating case. This LHR unit for the Brits was withdrawn this turn. It's referred to as a 3-4 unit everywhere in the reinforcements up to this point. Now, my understanding now at this point is it probably should have come in with a -1 strength point on its flipped side as a 4-4. It couldn't be recovered because it's the wrong color. This is how the rules would react if it was explained that, yeah, the unit, you'd have to modify the unit. It's withdrawn as a 3-4. There's no replacements you could use to bolster it up if you wanted to bring it out, if you had to bring it out. So there's no way you can bring it out if it's less than a 3-4, but you must. Anyway, I had recovered it to a 6-4, probably illegally somehow. But no matter what, it had come in, and I brought it in as a 4-4 because, well, I assumed counters came in with their strength on them. Probably a little silly, but this is not all hammered out in the game. You kind of have to come through it and realize this is purely a strength point game, which I've said it's close to. Well, it's not. But in order to make things just a little bit less playable mechanically, instead of just making it a counter game where the strengths on the counters count as something even for setup and replacements and for these charts here, lists, well, they end up making it a pure strength point game for them even. Now, to me, this is just, getting to the absurd, really, in terms of the support for being able to actually play this on a physical copy with the counters there. I mean, I harp on this again and again, but man, every time I come back to it and every time I play the game, it comes to this point. I'm not going to give up on it because what I'm playing right now, which is Fallout, is going to absorb my interests. So I'm going to keep trying this and I'm going to give it another little bit of a shot, but I may not finish this thing. Even the person I know online who plays it the most doesn't play the whole war scenario on these. He plays the campaigns, and I think it works okay for that, but it does get too tedious. He also plays it on Vassal, which is a different world as well, too. All right, I'll try to muddle through this turn. I think that's it for today. I've done all of 2 turns. I could do 3 months in a day without it interfering because it's New Year's Day. Plus, I'm out of work. All right. Well, that's the end of November and nothing exciting happening there. Just some more shifting of troops. Going to move into December. I don't expect an offensive there, although there are certain advantages to a winter offensive in that the defense has to localize their supplies. Now, both sides have spread out their supplies amongst their headquarters, which means in a sense, it's hard to make an offensive because you don't have them in significant power. Also, the Germans have pushed one of their headquarters up off the rail line so that they can actually cover all their units. This is something they have to remember to do every winter. It means that it's going to be tougher, more mechanically than anything else, to actually arrange for those troops to be in supply if an offensive happens there. It's not that it's going to be difficult to do. It's going to be annoying because I got to pull back. Okay, that's 3 and then a 4th to here. And then this run can move up. And I'll be swapping headquarters instead of simply flinging the supplies over the rail net. Again, this is one of those things in the game that is like the swapping of troops and everything else. Seems to be mainly an exercise in tedium and annoyance rather than getting to the heart of the game. There isn't enough excitement and interest in individual units to make all this effort makes sense. There isn't enough locking in of the headquarters. I can fling them about by rail if I want. I just can't throw the supplies. So moving the entire army headquarters and switching headquarters is quicker than transferring some supplies. It all just doesn't strike true in my heart. It feels to me like there's something significant missing from the game, or there's way too much detail on things that don't have much of it. That's just my view on it. All right, let's see if we can get December on here too. Well, with the new supplies in hand, the Germans decided to try and succeeded in taking advantage of a little weakness in the French line. Now, all along here, the French have a couple of units. This isn't necessarily the weakest point on the line. There were 6 strength points there, which seemed pretty significant. But the Germans, compared to what was in place, the Germans had a lot of new replacement big units that they built up. They built 2 more this turn. They got another one in as a reinforcement. They had someone kicking around somewhere that I had lost. So I threw all those big reserves by the rail net, and I can pull, 15 divisions this way into play. Sometimes shifting them into close units that could reach in there because in some cases the movement points didn't quite work out. The rail line is a problem, and sometimes I notice this and sometimes I don't, which is this World War II era line, which looks very much like all the other solid lines, but if you look closely, there's a dashed line underneath it. That means it's World War I, narrow, single track. World War II is double track. I think it kind of sucks to use the same map for both games. I see the advantage to that, but it definitely has a cost. And for me, it's about 50-50 on not noticing that. So, this game that's trying to be very realistic, well, when it plays in a real player's hands, as opposed to, some projected perfect player who will be able to handle all these aspects without ever making a mistake, well, the realism actually takes a fall due to the mistakes that I'm likely to make, or that someone like me is likely to make, someone willing to actually play the game on a board. If you want it in your collection and you want to be able to say, yeah, that's a pretty realistic game, you can say that. But when it plays out, it doesn't necessarily. Anyway. Of course, the area is devastated, and now this is what's tricky. The French have to respond and react and try to filter this in. They have to move supplies into place because defensive supplies are limited by range, as of course are offensive ones, but and more limited. But it creates this whole new headache down here, and it may just prevent an allied offensive. And the interesting thing is, whenever you commit an offensive, you do more damage because you're throwing, your concentration against a certain point than the opponent does. That's an interesting feel. I mean, when you do a decent one. So in this case, well, it was only 3-2, but it was really 5 to who knows what because they didn't roll, but with the retreat in place. So now, the Germans have leverage in 2 directions that they can go. Now, they're still facing trenches in both these cases, but they're not facing this river line that they were able to cut. This is a clear terrain hex. So they had a -4 to +2 as their modifiers. -4, -2 for the river, -2 for the trench line. Anyway, we'll see how that boils down. So touching on that realism issue again, and I've hit this before. This time I got to withdraw this, which came in as a 3-4. Well, it's got no 3-4 strength. Is one of these units that is different colored, couldn't possibly receive replacements. I guess they could shift and mix together and cause one unit. I spent replacements on them somehow, probably deciding, well, if I can't ever replace it, what good is it? It's just this annoyance in my stacks. Well, now it gets withdrawn as a 3-4, and I don't know what that's supposed to mean. You could say, well, okay, you violated the directive of the rules, but in some cases, those rules are kind of fuzzily violated anyway, and the feeling kind of is, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing here, right? And maybe I brought it in as a 6-4. Maybe I brought it in as a 4-4. I don't know. I'm coming to the conclusion that you're supposed to bring things in at the strength they're listed, regardless of what the counter says, and regardless of whether or not you can ever upgrade them. I looked at these and said, I can never upgrade them. Maybe they're supposed to come in at full strength. Well, what probably happens is they get withdrawn and they get brought back in. But what happens if they get withdrawn and they've taken damage? I can't use replacement points to up their strength as I normally could because they're the wrong type. There's so many things kind of left loose in these rules having to do with the replacement charge, etc. It reminds me of a lot of stuff, early stuff. And I guess it's okay I've played those games, usually ones like this, like Anzio comes to mind, where I'm sitting down and just playing it. And eventually I say, well, what's the point? You know, what is the point? What am I getting out of it? And I don't know. I really don't know, because I'm not. Anyway, let's get on with this offensive, because that should be some interest. And then I'll be able to go back to my paper mark counter shuffling once it's over. Anyhow, position-wise, the French react as best they could, filling this in. The supposed weak points, this one is real. I didn't have a way to get more troops there without weakening this and making a possibility of a broader collapse. So there's likely to be a German attack here. In fact, I'm going to shift my replacements that I've pushed into the salient there from there. I haven't dealt with those headquarters yet, so I may have more troops, but they can't jump right in. All they can do is station nearby so that they can move in. The French have a really terrible, well, the Allies as a whole, really terrible ability compared to the Germans of reacting to an attack. So they can lose a couple of hexes even if they have the troops, if they just have their front aligned in such a way as they did. They pulled the troops off here to conduct this offensive. Well, now they're paying the price for it. They could have moved them back, but they've been holding open this possibility of a follow-up all this time and looking at, well, I don't want to move everything back and then move it back. Okay, well, now they pay the price. You know, they had a couple of units guarding every hex here before. Now they've got it. All those extra units were in place for that offensive. They wanted to keep that as kind of a striking force to take advantage of a possible opportunity or something. I don't know. Mainly it's me being lazy, not wanting to shift the counters back and forth, because it is a real pain in the ass. Anyway, that laziness works fine for the Germans, because if they lose a hex, they can fling enough forces to stop the offensive. It's not so clear with the French. A lazy Frenchman is a bad idea. And, well, Schaff definitely shifted his troops around a lot and was doing a lot of effort to try to put things into position. So, yeah, it captures that part of the war, but I'm not sure I want to play that part of the war. There's other things about World War I find much more exciting. All right, let me finish up the French turn. I will come back. No, I lied. I will come back. So there is a way the French can get these troops here, essentially over here. How do they do it? They shove them into the line here, and every single hex moves some forces to reflect that change down the line. That's what I hate. Oh, boy. So I have to do that to strengthen this line. And this is going to be 20 minutes of work for no real reason. And it's because of the interaction of the rules. Yeah, you can't rail troops down there, but you can shift the whole front. Great. What did that just buy me? What did that just buy me? It bought me some realism. There's no question. And here's the thing. Maybe it doesn't matter in this particular operation, this particular campaign. Maybe it doesn't ever matter on this front, but maybe it does on some. Schroeder's captured the core basics, I think, very well. And said, okay, well, now I just have to design the games. It all falls into place. The problem is I used to use that kind of design in my role-playing games. Hey, get the real course as perfect as possible and everything falls in. Well, that ends up being a lot of effort on the players. And it does here as much as it did in my role-playing games. And it's really kind of it's a shame, because you've got a finely tuned model here in a lot of ways, but without a lot of rules complexity. But it's just too much effort to do all this. So I'm not going to do it. Or I'm going to fake it. I'm going to say, I bet you there's a 4-4 I can shift all the way down. I'll just move this one. And it's a lie, but it's not worth playing it out in the details the game actually supports. Ah, crap. I'm realizing this offensive failed. I haven't been playing very much, and I've been doing the video game, and my mind just has not been focused very well. The French did not lose every strength point, and they had a trench there. I'm going to replay that back up and allow the French to hold that line, structure things back so that they still have it. Oops. So I didn't go back and fix the strength points there. But essentially, I think what that means is there will be no real winter offensive. The Germans made their shot. You see the French line is fairly built up. They'll be able to shift things around again. But I just can't see doing one. I don't know what this trench is. Probably one I removed in the offensive. We'll see. Okay, so at the end, the French fiddled their piece. But at the end of the German turn, I also moved a bunch of their engineers into place to form the Hindenburg line. Now, I no longer have access to the rules for this. The rules in here are wrong. Bang. Totally wrong. I mean, they do not work. There has to be a trench in place. Well, a trench can only be in place in the front line. That doesn't represent the historical reality. I went and looked this up because on the living rules. Remember, I told you, well, it doesn't work well for me, but at least there's living rules if you're a person like that. Well, no good. They were taken down. I don't know if this is Decision Games or if this is actually SPW's own decision here. I know Decision Games tends to not allow living rules if they have a vassal module. It has to do with the release of a vassal module. And as far as I'm concerned, okay, well, don't buy the boxed game then, because it ain't going to come with the rules that you want. This game does not come with the rules that you need, and you no longer have access to them online. You no longer have access to them. There is no errata published. There wasn't one, as far as I could tell, at least, even when the living rules were up, which made my life hellish because I would like to just make the changes in the errata, from the errata. This is beginning to really piss me off because I can't look up what the actual rules for the Hindenburg line are. I remember them kind of, I'm just faking them from my memory. I think that they have to be on double rail line again, which means I can't build them back here. I'm not sure how reasonable that is, but whatever. And beyond that, well, I'm trying to build them along the waistline. I can't build it here. I can't build it here along the A's. And, I'm going to have to, like with many other things, kind of fudge it. But I got to tell you, this rule book, both for the Schlieffen plan, the Western Front game itself, and the standard rules are out of date. The game that they have available for your purchase right now is out of date, and they do not provide any longer an electronic copy. Bad decision. And just as a warning, anybody thinking about buying this, used, new, whatever, you don't get the rules. They're not good, at least for this version. And as we move into, the 6th turn of December, the French are essentially out of things they can build in terms of infantry. They have the option between cav, which isn't very helpful in an offensive. It's kind of cool because it doesn't spend supply. But these are cav divisions worth 1 strength point each. They're going to get pulled out at some point. So I'm going to have to buy them anyway, or else bring in reduced cav units to replace them. But to me, they don't seem like a good purchase right now. So I'm buying artillery with my replacement points. Of course, with the huge pool of French replacement units, I don't have to make that choice. But my feeling is that artillery is really, really powerful on the attack if you have sufficient supplies. If you don't have an abundance of supplies, Well, they can help you achieve a breakthrough, but they're not going to give you the kind of sustained victory that you want. So they may end up making shorter offensives if you start using them and not getting the advantages. Anyway, somewhere in that, we've got, I don't know. I don't know where we are elsewhere. Yeah, I'll finish up. 2 more turns of the month to go. All right, and here we are at the end of the year. Shift this. Moving into 1916. At this point, we're going to have construction of that Hindenburg line. I've got to start putting the pieces down. That comes into play. Geez, I don't remember how far. I think it's the beginning of next winter. It has to be. They have to be in place at the beginning of this year. They cannot move, and they'll be creating it. And I don't know if it happens at the beginning of the winter or some other time. It may happen at the beginning of next year. One of those two, I'll look it up before it takes effect. But really, nothing's happening. And, it's kind of at the point of, well, I don't want to launch an offensive because it's tough. One thing I noticed that will help, I've been counting these. I figured these were those bigger artillery pieces. Well, they're what I'm expected to use for attacks. So the French are, if they can get their supplies up, and they are producing more supplies now, they're only producing 40 per turn. Looking through, or per month, looking through this is always such a pain. Flipping through this big book to look up, oh, is this the month where they get X amount? And it's just very hard to remember for me. But French supply points, they'll be getting 40 a turn until things go bad. The Germans right now are getting, I think, 55 briefly. I don't know. Yeah, we got to go through their replacements here, and then we go here. Yeah, 55 until May of this year. And then it drops down to 40. And then it gets worse when their points hit. I don't know what it is. That's something else we got to look up, right? So we flip through it some more to find the accumulated demoralization. 3,000 is the German breaking point, and right now they're a little over 1,000, 1,300. A decent ways there, actually. The French is at 1,500, and they're currently at 1,050. So it's tough to tell because when you perform an offensive, you do more damage. But the Germans take damage for just sitting still. It's kind of weird the way that you do more damage that way. Anyway, I'm going to load this up because we're out of video. That's the end of the year. I don't know. We'll see if I can make it through another year. I don't know.
When only artillery attacks a hex and a fortress is in the target hex, the attacker can opt to just attack the fortress and any co-located artillery units. This would mean that the defender would have to take losses from any artillery present and then from his fortress. Infantry and other types of units in the hex would not be affected by this kind of attack. Only defending artillery would have the ability to counterattack. The fortress could not. As I mentioned early on, the way to deal with fortresses is with artillery, especially siege artillery. There are special rules that provide significant advantages to artillery attacking fortresses. Remember that a fortress counter really represents a complex of forts laid out in a ring. Here's a graphical representation of this. Here you see a ring of forts inside a hex. An artillery unit in an adjacent hex can fire only at a couple of these forts because the others will mostly be out of range. When only artillery units attack a fortress, the attacker gets a +1 die roll modifier for every hex side he has units attacking through. This benefit is due to the attacker being able to fire at more of the forts in the ring complex. So in this example, firing from 3 different hexes into the fortress hex, the attacker would get a +3 die roll modifier. Siege artillery units are the most effective against fortresses. These monster howitzers, like the Big Bertha you see here, could quickly obliterate the concrete fortresses built before the war. Yet these howitzers had relatively short ranges. Fortresses relied on infantry to keep these enemy guns as far away from them as possible. Yet without an adequate infantry screen, the howitzers could get close enough to make very short work of the forts. An adequate infantry screen for a fortress complex is 4 infantry strength points per hex side through which artillery units are attacking. Any less than this, and the howitzers can get close enough to fire line of sight, making their targeting easier and more accurate. If a fortress hex under artillery attack has less than 4 infantry strength points for every hex side the enemy artillery is attacking through, the strength of the attacking artillery is doubled. Let's take a look at an example of what you might see in a game. Here's the Belgian fortress complex at Liège, hex 2107 on the Western Front. The fortress has a strength of 36. Let's say there are 2 Belgian infantry units in the hex, a 6-4 division and a 2-4 brigade. The German player has artillery units in 3 hexes, 2108, 2206, and 2207, and he will use all of them to attack the fortress. Note that while all of the German artillery units are across a river, the river terrain effect does not affect combat, as this is an artillery-only attack. The Belgian defenders have 8 strength points of infantry. This is enough to screen 2 hex sides of the fortress hex from artillery attack. But since the Germans are attacking from 3 hex sides, the Belgians don't have enough screening infantry, so the German artillery units have their strengths doubled. Also, because they are attacking through 3 hex sides into the Belgian fortress, the Germans will get a die roll modifier of +3. So while the Germans attack the Liège fortress with 8 + 8 + 4 + 3, or 23 artillery strength points, for which they would expend 12 supply points, they would attack the Belgian fortress using the 46 column of the CRT, because they're doubled, and then 3 would be added to their attacking die roll. The Belgians have no artillery units in the fortress hex, and therefore cannot counterattack against this artillery-based attack. The only real way to neutralize large fortresses is with artillery. If you attack with infantry as well, you'll have a bloodbath. Let's say that in the previous example, which I've expanded here, the German player was to use the infantry forces adjacent to the fort as well as the artillery. And let's say the Germans had 16 strength points of infantry in each of the 3 hexes he would be attacking from. First, I would point out that because this is not an artillery-only attack, the German will not get a +3 die roll modifier for the number of hexes he is attacking through. But the artillery strengths would still be doubled, since the Belgians don't have an adequate infantry screen. So the German will still get credit for 46 strength points from artillery. And added to this will be another 48 infantry strength points, bringing the total German attack strength to 94. But since he is attacking solely across a river, and with infantry as well this time, he will have a -2 die roll modifier. The big problem for the German player is that since he is using infantry, the Belgians will get to counterattack. Since they are in a fortress hex, the Belgians won't have to retreat, no matter what the losses, so they will be tripled. The fortress strength is 36. Plus 8 for the infantry is 44. So in the counterattack, this will be tripled to 132. In addition, they will get a +1 die roll modifier for defending solely across a river. All of this means that while the Germans may do somewhat more damage this way, they are going to take massive losses, something on the order of 25 infantry strength points due to the Belgian counterattack. By the way, I should point out that the Germans initially tried to take the Liège fortress with an infantry attack in the opening days of the war, and these units were massacred. Use your artillery to wear down fortresses before you ever involve your infantry.
All right, so I'm going to, yeah, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen the next episode. I don't think he ever did a 19th episode with the trenches. I'll check, but I don't remember seeing one. Anyways, I'm now going to share the screen, the real-time history podcast thing that's supplied by Nebula. Hold on here. There we go. So hopefully you can see that. So I found this these series of podcasts through the Great War series there on YouTube, and then as you know, they ended up becoming real-time history. And I think I can't remember, but they had some kind of promo. Maybe it was at their store when I was purchasing things like this, like the T-shirt. Anyways, they had a promo, and I think it was through Curiosity Stream. I think I paid $30 Canadian, so barely anything. I have access to a ridiculous amount of podcasts, as you can see here, and it doesn't seem like there's an expiry date. I've listened to some multiple times. I haven't listened to them all, but this one I've listened to probably, I think, 4 times. Obviously, we can't listen to them. Dr. Wanda Wilcox about the Italian Empire and the First World War. We'll go through I'll show you the bits here. Not all of them are World War I, but primarily most of them are. So if you guys can look this up, and you're interested in World War I would say by a long margin, this has probably been one of the best values for money for me. The podcasts are just amazing. Well, you can tell from when they're interviewing these historians know that they're being interviewed by people that are passionate and knowledgeable. The rapport between the interviewer and the person being interviewed it's just spectacular. So they really get into some good stuff, and this is like, for example, how I found out about Shemish and got the book Fortress by he's on here. Oh, darn it, I can't remember his name. Well, we'll see. But anyways, I'll show you some of the titles, so at least you can see what. I haven't watched that one, but I watched the Franco-Prussian War, so that way I could start getting a bit more context of why the French seem to have a real hate on. Oh, cool. This is interesting. This is the first time I think I've done voice and reading comments at the same time. It's interesting. Yeah, I actually listened to this one last night. This was the second time I listened to it. the Alex Mayhew on British World War I wartime myths. Oh gosh, what a good podcast. It just also explaining like possibly how a lot of myths do have a kernel of truth. And they were saying that lots of times he thinks that maybe reason why lots of people, always think about mud and whatnot. It was about, 1917, the autumn, and then that really brutal winter that they had, and so on and so forth. And lots of people contextualize that or put that, in the frame. And he also talked about how that at that time, the morale for a lot of the Entente forces was really low. They thought they wouldn't lose the war, he said, but they certainly didn't think they would win it either. And then this massive offensive in 1918 by the Germans, and it seemed to give them their motivation again, to get back into the war. It was a really, really good one. But I re-listened to this one last week to prepare for the Caporetto game, as well as doing a Caporetto focused live stream coming up. And so this is probably, I think, the fourth time. It's just gosh, does she really know her stuff? And it's just really just amazing. You find out some horrible things about forced marches of prisoners of war, and just like how many people actually made it to the prisoner of war camp, and it's just atrocious. And how the Italians actually even viewed, or a lot of the high command seem to view. If you surrendered, it was almost like desertion, and so on and so forth. Whoa. Lord of Mercy, William, man. What else? What else here? Let's go here. I didn't see that. I didn't want to listen to that one. World War One, the Tulsa Race Massacre. Didn't listen to that one as well. The Sarajevo one, that was good. Just listened to this one this morning, actually, a nation making in Lithuania, just due to the fact that with the map 4 or 5N or whatever, that one I'm not supposed to be using, the one with Riga and everything, and I didn't know any of that area very much, but it was actually the person that made me aware of it was Ken. When we started talking, he was discussing his first move there when we did we started, and we haven't played it since, the Gorlitsa Tarnov breakthrough. He was explaining, I wanted to put some people up towards here, and of course at the time I didn't know it was what it was going to be being called. The Conrad von that is awesome. This one's really good. Hey Charles again. There we are, Jonathan. I didn't listen to this one. Don't think so. That one was really good. Like I said, you can see there's just a ton of. So please look this up. I don't know. Like I said, I got this through Curiosity Stream, and then I don't know what this it's called Nebula TV. I'll put it in the link for the live stream stuff. And they had some a zillion other topics or whatever. I just haven't bothered looking. This was the thing I went for. And like I said, I paid less than $30 Canadian, and it seems like I'm, have it, as long as I want, I hope, or as long as they've got a site, providing it. You can see it. It's just really darn good. That's it, Alexander Watson, about the Shemish Fortress, and that's where I got his book and so on and so forth. But some of it, it's not just sometimes just the top, whatever. I mean, they also bring you off to, as you can see, like a lot of the links to, okay, here's the author's book, and so on and so forth. But it's yet again, as you probably as you guys with a lot of your source materials, it sends you off to somewhere else where you find some more, more things. Oh, another wonderful thing now, if this is working, this split screen thing, you're not even, you are seeing it at the top there. I have multiple things in my little StreamYard, so I'm not really sure what in the world you're seeing. And then I'm realizing it's the top one, so I'm just a micro thing, which is perfect. If this is the case, that I'm able to use both screens, exactly, Charles. That's what we're going to be talking. One thing I'm already starting to assemble, but I'm going to be doing specifically for Caporetto. But I'll certainly bring up anything that that I see that's obviously it's going to be Italian front. I don't know if like one game I saw, it's just called Caporetto for example. Oh my gosh, is it ever beautiful too? But anyways, if this is working, and so what I'm going to try to do then is I can actually, because I was a bit worried that I would need 2 people when I wanted to do the virtual tour for the World War I Museum and Memorial. And now I guess I won't need it. All I'll do is get rid of my camera and, like everything. So there won't be my whatever. And then I'll still have my split screen with this amount of real estate, pop on the virtual tour. We can go on to the tour. I can check the comments for anybody that says, hey, Chris, can you go back to the second hallway or whatever? I want to see the whatever. I think that would be really interesting. Yeah. And also noticed I'll have to contact them because it's through their YouTube thing. But they have at the World War I Museum and Memorial there. They also have a thing where they have a YouTube video where the guy puts on the VR thing. I guess they have a thing. I'm not sure if it's still available at the museum, but no, it isn't actually. It ended in late September. But they had a virtual reality thing of the trenches. Oh my gosh, it must have been brutal. So what else can we see here before? Oh my gosh, that went pretty quick. And please let me know later if you like this interactive thing. Like it's not just because, like I said, I have to start thinking about. Like I'm running out of material, and I have to start. And I still want to continue, having a focus of World War I and having a resource towards gaming and World War I kind of thing. So. Anyways, I hope you guys want to take a look at this website. It's or consider it's just a ridiculous amount of. Look at all these, and you can see they're not. It's not like a 5-minute podcast here and there, like 33 minutes, 39 minutes, 40 minutes. There's a lot of material here. Yeah. So after this, I'll pop up like once I do all the admin cleanup from ending the broadcast and everything. I'll pop in these links, and hopefully, if anybody's interested, they can pop on over. But yeah, it was wonderful. Like, look at this, right? About the Baltics, and it just yet again. I think that was also that's right. This is the one you listen to before you go off to Lithuania. Well, you know what I mean. The Lithuania podcast. So anyways, I'll leave it on for a couple more minutes if anybody wants to mention anything or whatever, or if, that's about it really. I'll tell you what I'm up to. I think I mentioned that maybe in the comments. I've set up the initial army positions for the Russians and the Austrians for the Galicia in 1914. And then I'm going to try to use Alberto's rules to see how they work. And I'm trying to, start getting, oh gosh, I was having a great afternoon yesterday, just thinking about it when I went off to the shops. When you can almost feel it's almost going to crystallize, like you can feel the idea starting to click. I could, I could see, this. So what I think I'm going to do with the grand campaign is, for the most part, most of it's going to be abstracted combat, not the logistics. I'm going to keep that. I really, that I think is the bread and butter, especially when getting into the new rules with the grand campaign. I really want to stick with that. I love that part. But with a lot of the combats and the movement, I think I'm going to abstract that as much as I can, but keep some areas. So I don't know how to pick them, maybe randomly or something. Pick a front like for a time, or an army, some armies, or a certain sector in a front for a time, and say, okay, this will be done the way it is, kind of thing, like right down to that granularity, and then everything else will be, you know what I mean, to get things. We'll see how it works. That's about it. So what I'm going to do after that, like I said, I'll do a bit of admin cleanup, pop on some links, go and take a look at my beautiful game there and see what the Russian 9th and 5th armies are going to do. But it's the 5th army. It's got all the supply left. I mean, after they could just see that disaster with the 3rd army and Ruski's risk. Ay, what a mess. So we'll see. That's going to be fun to do. But it's a beautiful sunny day here. We had a fair amount of snow yesterday. So hopefully I can build on the Quincy. I've never built snow on top of like snow that settled for a while, so it'll be interesting to see. I want to make it tall enough so I can read in it. So that's the thing. I guess I don't really need to worry about. And I'm not sleeping in it, so it's not like I need to have it like super thick or whatever. So, anyways, that's it. If you guys can hear me, that's great. And I'm off. Super great to see you guys. Hope you have a fantastic Saturday. And that's it. I'm going to head off. So that's it. Happy gaming to you guys. All the best. Bye. Oh, my goodness. That is almost my weather, because it's been pretty darn warm here. It's about I think we got only down to about -7 or 8 degrees Celsius. I don't know what the heck that is. Yeah, your Fahrenheit thing, I don't really understand. Sorry. Okay, have a great Saturday. See you later. And yeah, awesome stuff, guys. Thank you so much. Bye.